Welcome to Wandering Tangent Podcast. I'm BJ, with me is Jeff and Gary, and today we're going to talk about the 1972 musical, Cabaret. Now,
BJ, why?
So
Why did you do it? You tortured us. You selected probably the most painful show that you could ever select
so prior to
in the universe.
So prior to starting on the why,
go ahead.
For those who didn't listen to our who did not listen to the review first, we're doing something a little different. We are separating out the review from the more long form discussion. So we just want to hear our general thoughts on the movie in a mostly spoiler-free format. You're going to want to check out that because from here on out, it's free reign. We're going to talk about whatever, whenever, no spoiler warnings beyond this point.
Also, if you want to know our particular reviews, just in short, if you don't want to go back to that one, we have a new review system, as discussed amongst all of the people. Is a sliding scale between -5 and +5. I gave this one a -2. Jeff?
Mm-hmm.
What did you and BJ?
What's the score, Jeff?
What did you score?
My score was -3.
And
-3.
My score is also -3.
Which was probably way too...
So that means
too high.
I have to defend this dumpster fire
No,
from you two's from your guys' criticisms, because apparently amongst all of us, I liked it the most. And actually, I'm going to stand beside that -2. And we'll discuss why here in a minute.
I think he should defend it. This movie needs somebody to defend it. And it might be entertaining to listen to him try.
There's many people who defend this movie. I rented it off of YouTube, and while I was watching it, I went scrolling through the YouTube comments. I'm like, am I watching the same movie as these people?
Yeah, there's a lot of people who love it. But my original question,
anyway,
BJ,
yes.
why?
Yes.
Why?
Yes.
Why did you do it, BJ?
So I do not know if you, and by you, I'm referring to Jeff and Gary here with me. If you guys go back and listen to our discussions afterwards, I'm pretty sure Gary doesn't, because Gary didn't really, I don't think Gary actually listened to the podcast before he got on it. I don't see him listening to it now. I don't know.
I catch it sometimes, and not all the time.
And Jeff, I don't know if you listen to it as part of your process of doing the video, or if you just kind of trust me and slap pictures on.
No, I listen to it. I go over every word, and and think about that, BJ. You did it again. Okay, go ahead.
So anyway, for the last few episodes, and I think it kind of came to a head when we were talking about Willow. And I'm saying we, because I'm sure I've done this too, but the contrarian in me has noticed it mostly in Jeff, but sometimes in Gary as well. We have somewhat fallen into the trap of saying that old movies are good, new movies are bad. I think we even kind of admitted to that when we were doing our top 3, bottom 3 last episode. Oh, by the way,
that's probably a true criticism.
By the way, I should probably mention that our 2-year anniversary episode is a month early.
So BJ,
oops. Oh well.
So yes.
Let me point out to you something. In my top 3, I have Underwater. From that episode, it was Underwater, Van Helsing, and Godzilla. All of those are within the 2000s. And my bottom 3 are The Haunting, Star Trek Episode 1, or Star Trek The Next Generation, and White Buffalo.
Yes.
All of that is old stuff.
Yes. But
yeah, so Gary is safe from that criticism completely.
Not really.
It's just me and BJ then.
No, because in Willow, Gary was talking about the and then story. He was talking about because storytelling and then storytelling. And
yeah,
Gary,
and I did state that a lot of
said that, well, back in the day they did and then, or I guess the other way around. Back in the day they did because storytelling. Nowadays they do and then storytelling. So no, this is a blanket accusation against all of us.
And so you're right.
And so I thought to myself, and I tried here and there to push back, but I did a pretty terrible job. So I'm like, okay, I need an object lesson. And so at first I was just going to go find us some absolutely terrible movie like Plan 9 from Outer Space. I'm like, you know what? That's not really going to prove my point, because then the argument is just going to be, oh, PJ, that's just a bad movie. There's always been bad movies. So I guess what I'm...
Yeah, that's probably true.
So kind of the point...
We would say that.
Yeah, so this was actually the most thought I put into choosing a movie, because I was like going through like lists of like movies that won the most Oscars and all that, and I found a couple. I'm like, okay, this could work, but I don't know if it's really prove my point. And then I remembered something. While I was growing up, every time some artsy fartsy award-bait movie won something, my mom would shake her head and be like, oh, it's like Cabaret all over again. Because at some point, my mom had heard about how great a movie Cabaret was and how many awards it won. And when she saw it, she was less than impressed. To the point that many years later, she was still mystified at the fact that Cabaret won so many awards. So this entered my mind, and you're like, I never expected to watch this movie because I grew up hearing about how bad it was. But with this movie and the 8 Academy Awards it won, along with being nominated for Best Picture and Best Screenplay, this is the movie to try to switch the discussion from old movies good, or old movies good, new movies bad, to bad storytelling bad, good storytelling good, despite how old it is. So so that was my grand... So as punishment of not being able to break us of this habit, I forced us to watch Cabaret. And so I will admit that for like an hour, sometime early this week, I thought it would be really, really funny to choose Cabaret and then not watch it myself. But then...
Oh, really? Now that would be a vengeful thing to do. Oh my goodness.
But I decided that would set the horrible precedent, because then it would just start off a series of like Scorched Earth where everyone would just choose a really bad movie and then forget to watch it. So no, I fired the gun and I stood in front of it too. So yes. So that was...
You suffered with us, and I will discuss, I will tell people, for those who don't know, while we were hyping ourselves up to watch this movie, many amazing memes were passed back and forth between us to try to hype ourselves into it.
I had way more fun texting memes to you guys than I did actually watching the movie. That was so much more fun. So I guess to kind of to state. So I guess for the people who didn't listen to the review first, I just found this movie terribly boring. I guess I don't know. I guess decadence and hedonism just isn't my thing.
So
who'd have guessed, BJ?
All right, and BJ, I get the lesson. Good lesson. Thank you. Because it showed me. You're right. This movie, it was an old movie. It predates Willow.
It predates us,
and it falls into that trap, like I was discussing in the Willow review. It falls into it very much feels like it falls into the trap of the and then storytelling. Like there's not a lot of because that happens in this movie, right? There's a lot of things that just seem to happen one after the other without any real story impetus in it, right? People wander into and out of the lives of the main characters, and it just doesn't seem to
the flow of the story wasn't the thing that got me as much, but I actually have a lot to say about this, but I'm going to try to not say very much about it.
Oh.
So
you're the one. So I will say my one positive thing I have to say about it is that the Fritz and Natalia storyline was by far the most interesting thing in the movie.
Is that the one where the guy's like a gigolo and she's like a Jewish person or a Jewish woman and they end up getting married, and it's like the one kind of happy bright spot in this entire dumpster fire of a movie?
Yeah, so Fritz is kind of a down on his luck playboy that sets out to kind of seduce Natalia because she's a rich Jewish heiress, but then he ends up actually falling in love with her, but she doesn't want to marry him because she's a Jew in 1930s Germany as the Nazis are coming to power, so she doesn't want to put him in danger. Like, that's a way more interesting story than the actual plot of Cabaret.
Yes, that is a solid storyline. And then, that she's, maybe I'm biased because I don't know why. So I did not find, one of the things that was off-putting about this movie was all of the people in it were just extremely unattractive, in my opinion. Most especially the people who were in the nightclub. Maybe they were doing that on purpose. I don't know. Yeah, so it's like the two people who were like appealing were Fritz and Natalia. Maybe it's just because they were attractive that I found them to their storyline to be compelling, or else the fact that it was actually a well-written and,
it's because they were
put
people.
Together story.
There's very few people in the story. There's like a bunch of caricatures.
Yeah, these people were not caricatures. They were actual. They had actual depth and meaning to them. So, yeah, I enjoyed this one. But yeah. So no, Jeff, go.
Okay. Well, unless you have more, Gary.
No, I
got a monologue that I have to get out at some point.
You get your monologue out, and then I'm going to try to defend this dumpster fire.
Good. Because if anyone doesn't want me to start a monologue, speak now, because I know the whole thing. So
BJ, start the timer.
Start the timer. Okay.
You laugh, but once again, I'm in the process of unlocking my phone to time this.
Okay. So, the thing that really stood out to me in this movie is that, and this is my opinion, I am not stating this as like a matter of fact. It's just opinion based on human experience and observation. I'm not preaching to anyone. Everyone can believe what they wish. But I sort of feel like with human beings, and this movie portrays it and intentionally portrays it, I think, that these two different classes of human beings that this movie kind of points out is there's something you might call like a player, and there's someone else who's kind of more of like a settler that you might call. Like a player is somebody who wants to go out and wants to have lots and lots of relations with as many people as they can. They want to jump from person to person. They want to experience new and interesting things. They also want to believe in some sort of grand vision for their life in the future. They don't want to settle in a relationship because that means that their future is determined. They don't want a determined future. They want some sort of grand future that has open possibilities for them. So you have players, and then you have settlers, people who want to fall in love with a person, and they want to be with that person, and they want a relationship with them. And I feel like there's these two kinds of people, and if a player goes and dates another player, the two will interact for a while, they'll have a fling, and then they'll go their separate ways eventually. But if a settler finds another settler, things will work out. They'll fall in love, they'll settle. They'll go and they'll have their life, which is set together and they'll go on. But the weird thing that might happen is if a player tries to, a player and a settler get together and form a relationship, that's where things can be very difficult because the settler wants to settle, the player wants to play, and neither one really understands what they want. They don't understand it. All they know is they're drawn to this other person. And as time goes on, eventually the truth comes out. And I think that's what this movie is showing. They're showing Sally Bowles, she's a player, and the character Brian Roberts, he is really a settler, but he is drawn to Sally Bowles. She is charismatic. She's fun. She's spontaneous. She also is connected to this life of being impulsive. And he doesn't have that as part of him. And he's not an impulsive person. He's actually a very organized person who is restrained. And so he's brought into her world, and she is eager to bring him in because she's interested in him. And what you actually see in the story is you see that these two people, one's a player and one's a settler, and they have a great time for a while, but eventually the truth begins to manifest itself more and more. And they go through some really bad they have a lot of fun together, but then it's always a struggle because Sally is a player. She won't settle for one guy. She sees one guy, she likes him, but then a few days go by, there's another guy, she likes him too, and she has all these differing men that she brings into her life, like the Maximilian character. Also Fritz she brings in. Even though their relationship didn't really pan out, it still was kind of a player type of move to bring in another guy. And poor Brian, he doesn't know what he's dealing with. Like, she's a man-eater. To put it now, that might be offensive to some people, but she's a player. She's not going to ever settle with him because that's not what she's about. But at the same time, as Brian starts to realize this more and more, it's hard for him because he does care about her. He loves her. He likes her. But he's discovering more and more that she's a player. This is incompatible with his way of thinking. And after they try to get married, but it doesn't work out, and they have the event, I don't know if you can say it on YouTube because you get, I don't know how the algorithm works, but they have a lot of tragic events, but then at the very end it shows them and they're parting ways at a train station. And honestly, the reason why I moved it from a -5 to a -3 was just because I actually, after reviewing it a few more times, I really think that storyline of the two of them coming together and then after a while separating apart again, I think there's a certain amount of intelligence to that, where they're showing how these two incompatible people come apart again. And I think the difference is with this movie, with the players and the settlers, one of the distinctive difference between these two groups of people is that the players, they look at love as a toy. To them, it's all about fun and joy. It's a toy. And for settlers, they look at it more like a tool. It's here as a tool, which is not something you play with. It's something you use to do something, to fix something, to build something. And I think that's really the problem that this show has, because it shows how Sally Bowles wants to use love as a toy, and Brian Roberts, he wants to use it as a tool, but he's also really intrigued by using it as a toy, and he's brought in by that. But in the end, it comes down to what he really is, and that is he can't be a player like Sally. And even if he was a player, they would still part ways eventually anyway. And then you have the other relationship, which is Fritz and what is it, Natalia?
Yeah.
Yeah, so now you have a relationship where Fritz thinks he's a player, but he actually discovers that he's not. And then he goes off and gets married. So we have two couples. One couple meets disaster, one couple meets success. So you get the two opposites of what happens. And in the end of the show, they show you they talk about Sally Bowles gives her big spiel as a player. Like she sees the world as a player would, where everything's fun and games. And even though it ends tragically, you get to enjoy the ride anyway, which is how a player would look at it. That's kind of how they end the show, but I kind of take a more neutral view of it, whereas I see both ways of thinking is different. And I think they do show the tragedy of being a player. They show a lot of that. And a lot of the musical numbers are all bent around that idea of anything. Anyway, that's the end of monologue. That probably went longer than I thought, but that was the big spiel that I wanted to get off my chest or whatever it is.
About
BJ,
8 minutes and 20 seconds.
Wait, how long was it?
8 minutes and 20 seconds.
Oh my goodness, 8 minutes.
You need to work on it, Jeff. Almost had 10 minutes there.
Well, it's not about Star Trek, so he has to stop it.
Yeah. Yeah, it wasn't about Star Trek, so it's easier to be shorter.
So I guess before Gary starts defending it, I will say that I didn't get out. I guess I didn't get it for my viewing. I didn't get a lot of that because I just found Sally in general to be just terribly uninteresting. Like I think I write in my notes. I think I write in my notes a couple times. This story would be a lot more interesting without Sally.
I mean, what would you have left in the movie without Sally? It was all about her. I guess they would have musical numbers, right? Just a bunch of songs.
No, because
and
like the actual cabaret part would go away without Sally because you take Sally out and then you have then you have the characters that stuff actually happens to.
Okay. Yeah, because then you'd have Fritz and Natalia.
Yeah.
It would all be about them. Okay.
Well, I mean,
I think that's a...
Well, I mean,
a good point.
You have Fritz and Natalia. You still have Brian out there and Brian's British, right?
Yes.
He's German.
No, he's British because he's from Cambridge.
Oh, I thought he was German.
No, he's British.
Okay. Wow.
He's there to teach English. Anyway, so Brian's kind of there, and Brian's there, and as an outsider, he has kind of more of a hardline stance against Nazis, which kind of gets him in a couple of rough situations. So like that stuff could be like way more interesting. Like even with Maximilian, who's kind of what do you call him? He's like a baron, but I don't know if they really had like nobility at the time in Germany. But he's like, oh yeah, he's kind of in the position that like Nazis are like useful idiots because they're going to take care of the communists, and then afterwards the good guys, quote unquote, can go in and take care of the Nazis. But then when that starts to get away from him, he flees the country
to Argentina.
Yeah, perhaps not the best place to go to get away from the Nazis in a few years, but prior to
that. Okay. Yeah, so you guys would change the movie.
I mean,
it wasn't what the creators wanted.
Yeah,
obviously.
No.
They wanted their thing, which is this.
And they made their thing, and they sure made the thing.
Did you guys look at the history of this movie? Apparently go ahead.
I know it's based on a book.
It is, yeah. It's based on a book, then it was made into a musical, and then after years of Broadway, then they finally made this film. And the film is different from the Broadway musical, and the Broadway musical is different from the book. Of course, everything progresses over time. But apparently, even the book was based on actual people. The character Sally Bowles was based on an actual person, a woman from England who went to Berlin in the same time frame, and she wanted to become an actress, and she had problems galore, just like Sally Bowles did, and she kind of lived a tragic life. But that's so actually there is some truth to it. And when she's out late at night, she's dancing at the cabaret. She doesn't have a lot of money, but it's easy for her to find fun and to find people to around her. And then she eats like egg yolk with some vodka or something, some alcohol on it, or Worcestershire sauce, and like that's what she lives on.
Well, like
she lives a life where like she doesn't really take care of herself, but that's basically all she needs. It's just this kind of simple food and to go out and party.
Yeah. Anyway, Gary, you're wanting to play the devil's advocate.
So, devil's advocate here. BJ, I want this to be more of a discussion, not just a Gary's monologue. So I'm going to ask you, BJ, could you bring up that list of Academy Awards again?
Yes.
I don't know if we discussed it in the other part of the podcast or that was in the in-between, but you had a list of Academy Awards. Let's kind of go through those again.
Okay. So it's 1 Best Director, 1 Best Actress for Liza Minnelli.
And I'm going to pause it there right there. Sorry if I just want to pause these and discuss director. There's not much to say there because that's kind of behind the scenes. Best Actress, I think Liza Minnelli did a decent job in this movie. Even though I didn't like her character as written, I think the actress did a particularly good job with what she was given, right?
Yeah, I can see that, yeah.
And also she was she's talented at singing, even though, also I think we discussed how you said that the opposite of love is not hate, but ambivalence?
Ambivalence, indifference.
Indifference?
Anyway. Same thing. I wonder if I said that during the review. Anyway.
I can't remember any of the songs in this one either. For instance, Hamilton isn't exactly my favorite play or musical or whatever, but gosh dang it, I cannot get any of those songs out of my head. Right? Those are dang good songs that you just they're earworms, and they get in there and you can't get them out. No. Versus these musical numbers, I forgot them as soon as the movie was over. Right? So, but Liza Minnelli did a good job singing them. That's what I do remember. So what's the next one?
The weird thing I would add about that is apparently one of the things that people hated about the Broadway Cabaret is that the lead actress they got to play it was not really a Broadway level performer. And that was actually intentional because from the book, the character Sally Bowles is not actually a great singer. She does okay, but she's not like entertainment level singing. That's actually one of the struggles of her character is she wants to be an actress, but she doesn't have the talent to really do it. So she sings at the Cabaret, which is actually not like a major production. This is like a tiny theater in Berlin. There's lots of them. It's not a prestigious job in entertainment at all. And there's even one scene in the movie where she's singing and the other people in the audience are kind of bored. And that's intentional to show you that she's actually not succeeding in her goal. Mm-hmm. She's a dreamer who's actually failing. And so people hated the Broadway musical because the lead actress wasn't really Broadway level theatrics to her singing ability. And they defended that, saying, well, that's actually part of the character. She's supposed to be not perfect. So they actually wanted her to be bad a little bit at singing. And then I think in this movie, by the time you get to this film, the directors are like, you know what, the audience just wants a good singer. So they got Liza Minnelli to just perform, a good performance, just to make the song sound good. Anyway, just...
Well, I mean,
nerd history. Go ahead.
Well, there's kind of a more recent example of that. Like forget what year it was, but the most recent theatrical version of Les Mis, the one that like I think Hugh Jackman was in it. I know.
Oh yeah.
Like I know a lot of people didn't like that one because like the director had this grand vision of like music sounding grills.
Yeah, so he had them like sing on the set, right? And they took that recording instead of doing it in a studio.
Yeah, something like that. So it didn't sound as good. So like people who go to a musical, they want like good music, right?
Yeah. Yep.
So BJ, where did we leave off? Liza Minnelli, Best Actress?
Yeah. So and this is and this next one is one of the ones I raise my eyebrow at. So Best Supporting Actor, Joel Grey.
Joel Grey. Who is he? Was he Brian?
Master of Ceremonies. He's the MC.
Yes.
Oh, Master of Ceremonies.
Yes.
Okay.
You know, that extremely pivotal character, the Master of Ceremonies.
Okay, I'll grant that one. Grant that one. That was you're right, BJ. You've got that one.
Who Joel Grey beat out for Best Supporting Actor?
Who did he beat out that year?
He beat out. So this came out the same year as The Godfather. So he beat out James Caan, Robert Duvall, and Al Pacino. I have not seen The Godfather, but even I'm like, wait, really?
Okay. But no, BJ, I grant that point. Okay, now, you got that one.
Another nerd fact. Well, another nerd thing really quick about Joel Grey. He's actually the only person I believe who was in the Broadway musical as well. So he, in this movie, had been doing that same role for about 2 decades prior. So he's had a long history of doing it. When they did... Go ahead.
I'm not saying he didn't do a very good job. I'm just saying that Master of Ceremonies isn't much of a character.
No, the whole thing is awkward for me. I don't like it, but I get why they put it in there. They put the Master of Ceremonies in so that you have this storyline.
I mean, yeah,
you
he's
get a break.
You
get a break from the story where he kind of tells you how to feel, kind of a thing. So he kind of like fits all the scenes together.
I mean,
that's at least what they were going for. I'm not saying they did it fits perfectly, but goodness.
Okay, BJ, let's move the discussion to the next award that they got.
So the next award it won was Best Art Direction.
Okay, Best Art Direction, right? I get that one as well, right? So they're going for 1930s Germany. And also they're going for kind of cheap cabaret, right? Mm-hmm. So the art concepts that they did, the lighting, the bad makeup, the German scenes all look absolutely authentic German. They probably just filmed it in German with German people.
Yeah, they did film it in West Berlin.
So it very much feels that feels Germany authentic. It was authentic to the time period. The clothing, outfits, the cars, the art style. I understand that. Everything felt authentic. The cheap cabaret. This looked like this kind of cheap, sleazy nightclub. That people would go to be entertained in a slightly adult way. But anyways,
okay.
Next one.
Next is Best Cinematography.
Best cinematography. That's like working with cameras to catch the best angles and film things in a way that you would be able to, be pleasing to watch.
It's also about lighting.
Yeah, lighting. And that I agree with as well. Like it is really good, solid cinematography. I don't much appreciate the subject matter, but I can appreciate the art of what they were doing with the film in that particular perspective. Next.
So next, and this is the second one I raised my eyebrow at, so I guess I raised my other eyebrow at it, was Best Film Editing. I say this because pretty early on in my notes, about a little more than 20 minutes in, during a particular scene, I wrote, "Wow, an absolutely stunning number of jump cuts." And right underneath it in big bold letters, I typed in, "This one, best editing?" And like, I get that this was made in a day and age where you like actually had to like splice the actual film, and so that many jump cuts is impressive, but it's best editing, not most editing.
and I'll agree. I'll kind of give you this one as well, right? I'm not giving this like a 10 or even a 0. I'm still solidly -2, but what I'm trying to point out is that there are solidly good aspects to this as a movie is, right? Even if it doesn't have the best story or solidly the best everything else, there are definitely solid benefits to it. What else? What other Academy Awards did it win?
Best scoring, adaptation, and original song score.
I guess for its time, it was pretty. I mean, admittedly, it's probably very derivative of the Broadway musical. I mean, it probably wasn't very hard for them to do that.
I mean, we also talked about how we pretty much all forgot the songs immediately. So
yes, that is a problem, right? You want and you can't really say that it's not. It's just because it's old versus new, because old music, there's some really good old music, right? A lot of the classics come to mind. And also there's good music that's made modern days, like I admitted, Hamilton, that musical, has me kind of riveted in a, just from a musical perspective. So it's, but this one, you're right. I mean, the songs, I didn't remember them, but on the other hand, I didn't remember them as being bad either. Right?
So question for you guys.
Go for it.
Is life a cabaret?
I mean, my life sure isn't.
I have no idea what... I've never been to a cabaret, so I have no idea how to compare it to the rest of my life.
But if you think about it, that statement, life is a cabaret, is it possible that statement could really be directed to almost anything, and in a super weird way it might also kind of make sense? Like, life is a cheese sandwich.
Life is like a
vacation that's too much money. Life is a box of chocolates.
Now, Jeff,
I'll
defend.
Life is a box of popcorn that spills on the floor. Life is a box
of chocolates. That's freaking art right there.
Life is a bad collection of metaphors.
It's a bad collection of metaphors.
So anything else,
Best
BJ?
sound.
Any other award? What? Best sound?
Best sound.
Yeah. I'll give it best sound. I don't know what it was competing. You said Godfather?
Yeah, it was nominated for Godfather. Nominated for Best Picture, which I believe went to Godfather. And
yeah.
Also nominated for Best Screenplay, which I did not look to see what won that year, but seems like it also might have been The Godfather.
So I'm not going to stand by either one of those, because I would not agree with either one of those. And I'm not just saying that because Godfather was in the same year. I didn't like either one of those. But just because you don't like the story of a movie doesn't mean that it's 100% a bad movie. That's why I'm still putting it at a -2, but I'm still going to defend it as, there's some good solid elements to this movie, right? There's parts of this story that seems like all of us kind of appreciated. The one good storyline of that kind of player guy and the Jewish heiress, and they end up getting happily married, and then everybody else just kind of being miserable. So, there's that.
I mean, if we're gonna, I guess we're in the mood to throw classic movies under the bus. That's one of the reasons why everyone says that people call Citizen Kane the best movie ever, is because it pioneered a bunch of important cinematography, but it's not the, in my opinion,
not necessarily an
entertaining movie. In fact, I remember way back in the day when Netflix would like actually mail you DVDs. I'm like, I'm finally gonna watch Citizen Kane. This is the best movie ever, right? And I'm like, and then I sat down and watched it. I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
that wasn't fun.
It's almost like saying the person
that sure was a movie ever.
Yeah, it's like whoever invented the wheel must be the best inventor. I mean, the wheel is awfully important, useful. Anyway,
so yeah, that's my synopsis of defending this movie, is that it's got some good elements to it.
And I will also defend it as well, Gary, because I honestly, after watching a few more segments of it, at the very end, I actually do feel kind of sad for the character Sally Bowles. I think she lives in a big world and she wants to enjoy it all, but yet life is filled with tragedy no matter what you do in the end. So I don't know. I think it's kind of like a bittersweet reality of that she wants to go and play, but there's still going to be tragedy somehow, and things will become messy.
So I'm going to do a second interjection here. So another thing, and this one is not defending the movie. This is kind of defending that concept, though, where she lives a not particularly happy life. So I've been reading books on how to raise children and whatnot, because, reasons. But one of the things that, and it's interesting that I was reading this and then this movie comes up. One of the things that is mentioned in this book, or in one of the books I'm reading, is that sometimes you need to tell your children stories that don't have happy endings. And it's healthy to do that. I'm not saying that I'm going to show my son this movie.
Yeah, no,
But what it
is... As I started the
is,
movie, I did send Gary text messages like, this might not be one to watch with your son.
But what it is that you can set your children up for failure if you only tell them stories in which people are heroic and that everything resolves in the end. And then they go out and they experience life, and then suddenly they find out that they're, if they ever have an end to a story and it's not a happy ending, they'll be like, wait a minute, I did the right thing and I didn't get the hero's ending. What's going on? Am I a terrible person? So if they have more realistic stories in which people make decisions and then those decisions have consequences, but then they also realize that there are other people that make decisions and those decisions have consequences. And so it's like more realistic, more grounded stories, right? So that's what this is kind of like this movie is, but we all kind of just don't agree with the way this story went together because it doesn't really seem to make any sense for other reasons, but I can kind of defend that aspect of it just a tiny bit, in that it didn't just
ending.
Magically make it have a happy ending, right?
No, there was kind of a happy ending for Fritz and Natalia, but they're also living in Nazi Germany, so persecution's around the corner. I was going to
say, there's like a potentially happy ending for Natalia, but
hopefully because they know English, they can, get on a boat and go to England or America.
Yeah, so like spoiler alert, for a good chunk of the movie, Fritz is he's posing as a Christian, but turns out he is a Jew who is pretending to be a Christian to kind of
give him opportunities.
Yeah. So
yeah.
So
both social opportunities and business opportunities.
Yeah.
He's
So
hoping to score big. By hiding who he is.
Yeah. So as like part of his character arc, sort of his last big hurdle is sort of discarding that last bit of armor to
make himself vulnerable to a woman, so that he shows her everything he is, and that she accepts him for who he is, and then he accepts her for who she is. And that is beautiful. That's beautiful storytelling right there.
Yeah. Shame
it went with the rest of this movie.
There's a scene where he runs up to her, she's in the car, and he's trying to like, oh no, like they're having a conversation, and then suddenly the background moves and she says, Fritz, are you okay? What are you doing? He's like, oh, I've never jumped on a longboard before.
Jumped on a running board.
On a running board. Whatever.
That's the side of the car.
Yes, Jeff, a longboard's a skateboard.
Something like, yeah. But I
almost
think
I tried up to her car and like ride alongside of it.
But I think that there might be something to that, and I tried to look it up, but I couldn't find any details. But I have a suspicion that at some point in the Broadway musical, there was a mistake where the background moved at the wrong time or something, and it caused, because she's in a car.
Yeah.
So
she's trying to drive away because he's proposing to her, but at this point he's still posing as a Christian, and she doesn't want him to catch flack for marrying a Jew. So she's trying to deny him by driving away. So it's not an accident, Jeff. It's part of the story.
Well, that's part of what I was trying to say. Like, why would you have that in there? Like, why would he suddenly say that line? And I almost get the suspicion that perhaps
because she's trying to drive away, and as she does, he jumps on the running board so that she can't leave him behind, and he's hanging on the side of her car, so she stops and asks if he's okay.
I know, but the placement of that line seems just really thrown in there.
No,
I almost think that it was an ad lib from the Broadway musical.
It makes total sense. She's driving away. He doesn't want her to go away. He jumps on the running board. It makes perfect sense. It's not thrown in.
It's not thrown.
It's not.
Okay, I get why it's not. I'm not saying it's thrown into the movie.
You're saying it's ad-libbed.
Let me finish my statement. I'm saying that I'm wondering if in the Broadway musical there was some sort of glitch and they loved it so much they kept it in the play and it found its way into the movie. I just suppose that maybe that was true. So I looked it up, but I couldn't find any information. But yeah, it probably is just like what you said. It probably is. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, it's just such a weird line to throw in there. It doesn't seem to fit the scene at all.
It does.
She drives away and he's just standing there and he happens to be, it's cartoonish. It's like Wile E. Coyote-ish to me.
Do you know what a running board is, Jeff?
No. Actually, I think a running board it's kind of like a...
on cars, there's the board outside the door.
Oh, the running board.
Yes!
Okay, no,
a running board.
Know. Okay, so he's standing on the running board.
Yes!
Okay. No, that actually does make sense now.
Ugh. Gary, I heard you laughing. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, I just thought that entire conversation was hilarious.
I should have asked if Jeff knew what a running board was like 5 minutes ago. Would have saved me such a headache.
So, yeah, that's all I got to say about this movie. I've said all I'm going to say about this movie. I'd very much prefer this whole sad experience to just be over and done with. So, yeah, that's my 2 cents.
So yeah, I guess annual cabaret night's not going to be a thing in this group.
Well, we're not going to get together and sing cabaret songs?
I'll tell you what, Jeff.
Life is a cabaret.
I'll tell you what, Jeff. We'll do the annual Cabaret night right after the annual Last Jedi night.
And we'll just, not everything's a happy ending, BJ. Sometimes you have to review terrible movies or have long bouts of just one bad movie after another.
I mean,
yep. Last Jedi, and then we'll do Cabaret, and then Star Wars Christmas special. We'll have a giant movie marathon. And then afterwards, we'll go into a coma.
But yes, BJ, lesson learned, bad movies bad, good movies good.
Yes, regardless of when they were made. I will try to redeem myself for this by finding good modern movies. I have a couple of ideas, but we'll get there when we get there, I suppose. Jeff, do you have go ahead, Gary.
I mean, we already did review Godzilla -1, so...
Well, like, more good modern movies.
Okay, so yes, I didn't know what a running board was, but to be honest, the line seemed a little weird to me. Like, why he would be surprised that he was on the running board? I mean, I don't know. You guys looked at the scene and were like, oh, everything's normal. But me and my brain, I'm like, no, something's not right about the universe with this thing.
I'm not even gonna ask Jeff. Jeff has another monologue in him because he's gonna go off on running boards again. Anyway, not the movie for us, shall we say?
Yep.
Okay, Gary, did we learn our lesson? Did BJ's entire
yes, I already
goal
said
in
that.
this, was it successful? You said yes, right?
I said yes.
And I, of course, have learned nothing. So, yeah, obviously old movies are better. New movies, just, obviously they don't work.
Don't push me, Jeff. I will find more movies like this and inflict upon us. The contrarian is me is strong enough to keep inflicting punishment on myself until the lesson is learned.
The beatings will continue until
morale improves. Yes.
The beatings will continue until morale improves.
Oh. Yes.
But anyway, you don't have to worry about that next episode because I think Jeff chooses the next movie, right?
Yes, and there is a great pick for the next film. It's going to be awesome. It's going to be not some sort of deep, dark lesson about judging movies. It'll just be a fun thing to review.
I mean, if we try hard enough, I can find a way to make it dark and depressing because it's happened. But anyway,
You have that power, BJ.
I mean, it would require me to watch more than one movie to get ready for that discussion. I don't know if I have that. I don't know if I have that willpower. We'll find out. Anyway, so yeah, that was our first standalone long-form discussion. If you made it this far and you haven't listened to the review, you might as well go listen to that. That was only like 15 minutes compared to like the hour or so we talking about here. And yeah. Yeah. Cabaret.
Cabaret. Life is a cabaret.
Life is a cabaret.
Life is stage makeup in front of a camera, when really stage makeup is for the stage, not for a movie, because it looks really awkward when you put it on somebody and then put the camera really close to their face. Anyway.
I guess it's tradition. Any final thoughts?
No.
I have 3 more monologues, but...
And they're all about running boards. I am BJ. With me was... Okay, so... So yeah. Cabaret. Never going to watch it again. The one faint piece of curiosity about hearing my mom complain about decades ago has been itched, and it will now leave my mind forever because I was just so bored.
But will it leave your mind?
Yes.
Good. Some of us may not be so fortunate.
Like Gary said, I have forgotten most musical numbers, and I was so bored that I couldn't really tell you what happened outside of broad strokes because I was just so uninterested. So yes, I am I reckon I'm going to totally forget. I'm going to forget most of this movie inside of like a week.
Good. That's the right thing to do.
Outside of like how bored I was, so I'm never going to be tempted to watch it again. Oh yeah, -2, -3, -3. We will see how long this rating system lasts before Jeff and Gary find a way to like start adding decimals or square roots and anyway, I'm BJ. That was Jeff and Gary, or is Jeff and Gary. We're all past tense or future tense or present tense. Actually, no, never mind. That's the end of the podcast, everybody. See you next time.